Dan Olson produced a epic 2.5 hour long video called "The Problem with NFTs," and I think that overall the video is very well researched and gets many details right. And I think a lot of the criticisms of NFTs are valid, but I do think that Dan, you fundamentally misunderstand the problems that cryptocurrencies are intended to solve. And I also think that you confuse the problems with our culture and our economic system with the uh, merit of the underlying blockchain technology. I think that the blockchain as such is a revolutionary technology that is both better money and a better record of ownership. And if you can separate the technology from the basically cultural manifestation that we see with NFTs, I think you can better understand the merit of that innovation. So I'll start by talking about why there are so many scams in crypto. And I think you can understand that anytime you create this sudden $2 trillion store of value out of nothing, you're bound to have get rich quick schemes. Just like when you had gold mining start in California or oil in Texas, suddenly had all these scams trying to capitalize on that. Doesn't mean that the basic technology is flawed. Um, I think you have to compare the scams you see in crypto with the scams in the legacy financial system. So all of crypto is $1.7 trillion, whereas the legacy financial system is 22.5 trillion, or 24% of the global economy. Dan, you should really ask as opposed to what when you criticize crypto, because Bitcoin was invented to solve a problem, and the scams you see in the $2 trillion crypto ecosystem pale to the destruction that Bitcoin is trying to address in the legacy financial sector, which is worth 24% of the global economy. So if you want to look for corruption and waste, look at the fiat monetary system. Now, I think that your criticism is misguided mainly because NFTs are just technology. It's just a way to denote ownership of assets, to have a record of ownership on a blockchain. It's a brand new technology. It's expensive. It's hard to use. It's easy to screw up with, but that's all because it's new. And we don't have a killer use case for it. I don't find NFTs as they are very compelling, and I don't recommend it for people to be investing in them for sure. But many of the technical issues and limitations like high fees are just caused by a lack of maturity. They're not ready for prime time now, but I think that definitely there's potential huge use cases of non-fungible tokens as a record of ownership. And one of the main reasons why NFTs are so isolated from, or rather that they don't integrate with traditional media, is because we have this monopolistic legacy entertainment industry that really does not want to innovate. And I think once you have much more integration of NFTs with legacy media, they will become much more meaningful and higher quality. Let's take a detour and talk about the 2008 financial crisis, because I think you get some things right, but you fundamentally ignore the cause of that crisis. The housing bubble was caused by government-backed loans funded by artificially low interest rates. So in the Sun Money system, you could just leave your savings in a bank account. And over time, as the economy grew, because the money supply is constant, your savings will become more valuable. But in our system, inflation means that savers are always looking for places to shelter wealth. And because stocks are so volatile, mortgages happen to be a very attractive place to put wealth. And the 2008 crisis was mainly caused by all this easy money going to government-backed mortgages. And that is the problem that very explicitly Satoshi created Bitcoin to solve. You say that Bitcoin was never designed to solve the problems created by the banking industry. Well, here's a quote from Satoshi Nakamoto. The root problem with conventional currency is that all the trust that's required to make it work. The central bank must be trusted not to debase the currency, but the history of fiat currencies is full of breaches of that trust. Banks must be trusted to hold their money and transfer it electronically, but they lend it out in waves of credit bubbles with barely a fraction in reserve. That is the reason that Bitcoin exists. The problem that Bitcoin solves is not overdraft fees, as you claim, which is ridiculous. It's fiat money. And fiat money is a relatively new invention in the last 100 years that's enabled things like total war, continuous business cycles, the military-industrial complex, the Great Recession, the 2008 crisis. All these things are made possible by the expansion of the monetary supply, by artificially low interest rates. And you might disagree with that, but that is what Bitcoin is solving, not your ridiculous claim that it's overdraft fees or the energy uses caused by idle ATMs. Bitcoin doesn't fix human nature. It doesn't fix whatever pet problem you have, like wealth inequality. It fixes a specific recent creation, central bank currencies. It's not opposed to banks as such. It's opposed to fiat money, money that's used by the government to manipulate capital markets, to be able to tax people without their consent, to be able to redirect arbitrary parts of the economy to whatever pet cause the politicians want to support. So that is what Bitcoin exists. So when you look at Bitcoin's energy usage, inactive ATMs are not the problem like you claim. The energy usage that we talk about, that Bitcoin saves, is all the energy that goes into war and the military industrial complex and the 2008 crisis and all the bubbles that fiat money enables, like in healthcare and education and housing and so many more. That is the waste. That is the energy waste and human waste that Bitcoin is solving. That's what we should be comparing it to. I mean, your presentation is 2 hours. It's epic, and I could go on for the next 2 hours addressing a lot of the incorrect statements you make. But the main point I would want to make is that crypto is not a zero-sum game. It's a huge value for everybody in civilization, because everybody uses money, to have a sound monetary system and to have a money transmission network that cannot be censored by any entity. And to understand that, let's compare Bitcoin and baseball cards, because you claim that it's just a meaningless collectible that only has value if somebody's willing to pay a higher price. That's not true, because Bitcoin is meant to be money, to provide value as money, and it can do things that no collectible can. You can't make a salary in baseball cards because they're not fungible, they're not divisible. You can't pay for coffee with baseball cards, right? Because you can't divide them into small units. You can't use baseball cards to circumvent capital controls, or to have a savings account in countries that won't let you have one, or that confiscate your money arbitrarily. Baseball cards are not scarce. They're not mathematically proven to be scarce. They're not very portable. You can't send them instantly around the world, etc. They're not a good money. Bitcoin is a good money, and that has tremendous practical value. And once you get a salary in Bitcoin and you buy goods in Bitcoin, which a lot of people do already, there's no need to sell your Bitcoin for any other asset to profit from it. It does not depend on ongoing adoption to be so successful. There's already entire economies that operate in the world of cryptocurrencies. So let's talk about a lot of the technical issues you identify with NFTs as such. One thing that you keep harping on about is all the fees that are involved in cryptocurrencies. And it's true, right now the blockchain size is inherently limited, and that means that there's high fees if you use the Ethereum network. But that's a temporary limitation. It's a limitation of the current state of technology. And the more pressure there is to find lower fee alternative, the more innovation will get us there. And already you have Polygon networks, and you have Avalanche, and you have Binance Smart Chain, where you can mint NFTs for just a few cents. And that's only going to get better. You really don't understand how pegs work, because it is possible to have an asset that you move across networks, right? And it is possible already to use the networks that are less decentralized, where censorship is not as much of a concern, for less valuable use cases like NFTs. And as the tech improves, that will become easier and easier, and the fees will become a much smaller portion of the ecosystem. Now, I mean, it is a craze. There are a lot of dumb ideas happening here, but what all this is powering is innovation. And once there is a legitimate use case for NFTs, all the hype will hopefully die away. This current wave will crash, but the innovation will remain. Thinking about a non-fungible token, it's really a property deed. And while property of a GIF is not very meaningful, you can use NFTs as property of real assets. In last year, I built an NFT that paid that paid money for real-world music royalties. When people listen to Spotify or Pandora, it actually paid in crypto. Real-world activity gave it value, and I think there's no reason why in the future you can't have NFTs that denote ownership of vehicle or real estate, etc. It's the legacy legal system that's the roadblock here. And once that's figured out, how to integrate these two, I think NFTs can actually have a killer application.